With us today, one of the four Diegos, Mr. Ralph Barba. How you going, Ralph?
I'm really well, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we are good. Ralph, what are your thoughts on the final that took place on Monday morning?
It was really, it's funny, it's almost what was expected. Croatia gave a really good account of themselves, but France during the World Cup, I think they showed enough class, enough resilience to be able to deal with anything that Croatia threw at them. Really, France would have had to have played one of their worst games, and Croatia would have had to play one of their best games, even after three straight extra time wins in 10 days or something. So they were pretty fatigued. It would have had to, in that sort of scenario, for Croatia to win. So in the end, I think the best team won, but it was just a mammoth effort by the Croatians. I'm really glad for them. I think that they really took a step in this competition when they've shown so much promise over so many years. I think for them to make the final and really push France as far as they did, I think it's been a really good sign for them.
Now, Ralph, this is Fraser here. Do you think France weren't expecting Croatia to play that well, especially in the opening half hour?
Look, who knows? I wish I was in that change room, Look, I think going into World Cup finals, even Euro finals, the way France lost against Portugal a couple of years ago, in 2006 when they lost against Italy, I don't think you can be super confident about anything. Anything can happen. Send-offs, bad refereeing decisions, injuries, all those sort of things. I don't think you can be really confident. I mean, you can be confident in yourself, but being certain for a win, I'm not sure. So Croatia was always, because they're hardened professionals, the Croatian players. They're players that play all over Europe and really great players. And they're really experienced team too. They didn't have too many young guys in that team. So they were always going to give a full account of themselves. And don't forget, they were looking to make history. Croatia's never won a World Cup. Of course, their country is economically, struggling at the moment. A lot of their youth, there's a lot of youth unemployment, and so there's a lot of problems in that country. But it's amazing what a game of football and a national team can do.
Ralph, the VAR was used in the final with the France penalty. What's your take on that moment? Do you think it was a penalty?
Well, I think what's changed is even with handballs in the past, in the penalty area, referees had the discretion to say, well, it wasn't intentional or, interpret it a certain way. With VAR, as soon as it hits a hand, irrespective of where that hand is, they seem to give them. And because of that, I think any handball in the penalty area these days, whether it's accidental, if you've got it hanging away from your body, in what they call the unnatural position, they're going to give penalties now. So in that respect, it's cleared up anything. There's none of this discretion by the referee. Was it intentional or was it not intentional? It was clear it hit the hand, and the hand was away from the body. It probably stopped the ball from progressing further into the box where, another France player could have scored. So I think it was a fair enough decision. And as far as the VAR being used in the World Cup, I think it was brilliant. Of course, sometimes, there's some controversial moments, but I think generally, if you look at all every decision that was made via the VAR, irrespective of how upset people were, it was probably the right decision. And that's what we're trying to do. The next thing is to use VAR for simulation and stuff like that. Now, if you want to really clean up the game, you've got to do something about that. But generally, I think penalties are given. Offsides are, pretty much now, you can't get an offside wrong when you've got VAR. So I think it's a good move, and I think that the drama around the decision is actually good for the game. It's almost like a penalty these days too. So, we were the guinea pigs back in the old in our last A-League season. So I think where we really didn't find it palatable at different times, I think that part of it was all sorted in the World Cup, and I think it's here to stay.
Yeah. Do you think that the amount of time that the referee took to deliberate if it was a penalty, did you think it suggests that he wasn't going to give it?
Well, I think these days, if they're going to go to the screen, they've got 4 or 5 people up in the cage, in the VAR cage. They're not going to stop the referee, or they're not going to tell the referee to go have a look at the screen if they're not certain. And they would have looked at the videos 3 or 4 times themselves. So I think nearly 100% of the time, if a referee is going to go to that screen, he's going to give the penalty, or he's going to give the decision that the VAR people have suggested to him. I don't think I saw anything during the World Cup to suggest otherwise.
Ralph, in the other game, Belgium beat England 2-0 in the third place playoff. Do you think the third place playoff is a valuable part of the tournament, or do you think it's a bit of a waste of time?
No, it's sort of valuable part of the tournament. It's probably another revenue raiser for FIFA in that they need another full stadium. Of course, there's TV rights around that, and that's worth millions. So if you look at the amount of money, I think correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think France won 40 million euros for winning the World Cup. Australia got 8 million euros for being there and not winning a game. So I think it's all about money, isn't it? I mean, why else would you play the 3 and 4, except for a team like Belgium is trying to, of course, make inroads as a team that's maybe known that one day will win a World Cup. So it might be a progression step for them, finishing third. England, finishing fourth. I think that, but you could probably work out that through other sort of rankings rather than have that game. So I think from an interest point of view, it's a waste of time. From a money point of view for FIFA, it's probably another goldmine for them, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, it's going back to the final. I mean, it kind of capped off the whole tournament, didn't it? Because you had like an own goal, obviously VAR, and obviously Croatia. Did you think Croatia were probably fatigued, or did you think they would just go out, not fatigued at all?
At that level there, I didn't see them running out of puff. They probably ran out of ideas, and when France were very good in this tournament, just killing off anyone who is threatening them at all. With Mbappe up there, with Griezmann, these sort of players on the break, they're just devastating. And I think France did it against Argentina, and once they got that goal, they were fairly good at defending. I thought that they're one of the best teams at just sitting back and just absorbing pressure. And then you're quite likely to cop a second, and that's what happened with Croatia. So if you don't score against France and then defend really, really well, you're susceptible to them scoring, and then you having to chase the game if they get a second. So look, people criticise Deschamps, the manager of France, because of this so-called pragmatic way of playing. People were suggesting that France go one up, why don't they go for 2 and 3? Well, it's a World Cup final, and they did lose the Euros a couple of years ago against Portugal and lost the 2006 World Cup against Italy. If I was in that situation as a manager, mate, I'd do anything. If I had to park the bus and try and score on the break, I'd do that.
Yeah. Ralph, the Socceroos only lost 2-1 against France in the first match. Does France winning the final change your view at the Socceroos' performance, or how they did, knowing that fact?
Look, I think that. Well, I mean, we reached the knockout stages in 2006, and Italy went on to win it too. And they're the one who knocked us out too. So a few people mentioned that, but I put the Socceroos, where we are with the Socceroos, in a very different category, and not use one game as a measuring stick of where we are. And that they did well against the France, but they were always a little bit off the pace. They did well against Denmark, but off the pace. In that they couldn't win the game that they should have won. Against Peru, they just ran out of puff, or they just, in the end, Peru had the greater incentive. So as far as Australia's concerned, another glorious failure, in another courageous performance, heroes and all that sort of stuff. But are we happy as a country continuing after 4 World Cups not to be able to win games and score goals? Yes, we've won 2 games out of 16 in all the World Cup games we've played since 2006. Are we happy to do that as a country? Some people out there say, well, what do you expect? It's Australia. Well, I'm a little bit different. I just think, it's just a game of just degrees. And some of the chances we had to win games just relied on a bit of composure, relied on a little bit of class and just ability in those right areas. That might be a really big jump, but I don't think we're far away. But we can't be. I believe we can't be happy with 3 losses and, backing up, not 3 losses, sorry, 2 losses in the draw, and backing up on the last World Cup where we had 3 losses. It's just not something that I am comfortable with.
Yep, and now obviously big news yesterday how Tim Cahill announced his retirement from the Socceroos. How would you rate the Socceroos, especially ahead of the 2019 Asian Cup?
Without Timmy?
Yeah, without his absence, sorry, yeah.
Look, I think Timmy can't go on forever. Really,
Yeah.
He may have been valuable for us because he still scares the living daylights out of the Asians, doesn't he? I mean, it's just you put him on the field. I happened to be in Japan a few years ago when they played a World Cup qualifier, and all week the Japanese in the media were talking about how they're going to stop Tim Cahill. They're prepared for months and months and months how they're going to stop Tim Cahill from scoring a goal. Well, Ange Postecoglou started him on the bench for some reason. He may have been injured. He came on in the 79th minute. His first touch was a headed goal. The guy, they were just petrified when he was on the field. And this is Japan. So he probably would be of use, but he just can't keep on going forever. And he's probably, in a way, said, look, I can probably play, but I've got better things to do in my life now. I need to move on to the next stage. And I'll give the next generation of strikers a chance to do what they need to do. But, the big question is he our greatest ever Socceroo? I think he scored the most important goals, in games. I think in that respect, he is our greatest Socceroo. But as far as technically gifted Socceroos, I think that's another conversation, isn't it? Timmy scored so many. I mean, if you think of the goals that he scored that made you... gave you goosebumps when you even hear it or see it these days. I mean, the second goal, or the first and second goal against Japan in 2006, the goal against Holland in the 2014 World Cup. I was actually in that stadium, and I know what it did to me in that stadium when he did that live. Look, you couldn't get... there's a big argument that he's our greatest ever Socceroo because of the importance or the ability to score important goals. I mean, we go back to Syria, go back to Honduras in these last qualifiers too. So, what a fantastic player. And I just don't know when we're going to get someone like him again, because it's not like he came through our development system. He left when he was 16. He went over to England and really developed his game over there. So, it was a bit of a fluke. And he, by the way, had played for Samoa and for a long time couldn't play for Australia because of that. So we were a bit lucky, to tell you the truth.
Yep.
Ralph, just adding on to what you said, what is your favourite Tim Cahill Socceroos moment?
I knew because I was in the stadium in 2014. And for me, what that did to every Australian in that stadium, and I happened to be with some of my best mates standing next to him, actually the other Diegos standing next to them in the stadium, and it was just amazing, that one there for that moment, and what he did for the state where we were in that game at that time, and the way the team actually played. They played quite well for most of that game against Holland too. So all those things there, it was unbelievable. And look, but you can't deny the 2 goals he scored against Japan in 2006. I mean, I wasn't in the stadium on that occasion. I was at home, and I still remember my wife crying when he scored that second. It was just something unbelievable. So, it's a bit of a tie between those two, but because I was in the stadium in Brazil for that one in 2014, I'll go for that one.
Yeah. And what do you reckon, what's next for the Socceroos? Obviously, we got the Asian Cup. Before I go on, do you think we should have a testimonial for one of our greatest Socceroos?
Yeah, I think so. But I know we had farewell sort of games for some of them from 2006, but it doesn't seem like it's something that we're doing regularly enough. I think it opens up the question or the discussion about should we be doing more for these former Socceroos. All for it, give it to Tim, but we should have something that's really set in concrete that we've got to celebrate this, great Socceroos every time they retire. So it might be something that hopefully they'll do more consistently.
Yeah.
Ralph, it's been a really, really good tournament. What's your favourite moment been in this tournament? And do you think the tournament was a success as well?
Yeah, the favourite moment, God. Favourite moment. Look, what stands out for me, and it probably, it's just something that stood out for me in the tournament, When I saw Cristiano Ronaldo he scored a hat-trick, did he, in the game against Spain, in the first game, in the group game? Anyway, he scored 2 or 3 goals in that game. And he looked like, because I'm old enough, guys, to remember Diego Maradona winning the World Cup off his own boot in '86 for Argentina. And when I saw Cristiano Ronaldo at his powerful best in that first game, I thought, my God, he's set himself to win this tournament for Portugal. But then he just fell away for him. But when I say fell away from him, he was still a good player, but he sort of didn't control the tournament like Diego did. But in that game, it was the way he played, the fear the Spanish had of him in that game. That was it wasn't so much a favourite moment. It was actually a favourite performance for me in that game.
Yep. And lastly, do you think we were wrong with the Russia hosting the World Cup? Because I didn't hear didn't read any stories of fan violence or anything like that. And do you think we'd be wrong about Qatar hosting it in the next World Cup?
Well, I actually was there in Moscow for the first week, and I watched the opening game, and then I had to come back. But it was just, I never felt threatened. People were really welcoming. Yeah. Moscow's a beautiful city. This stuff all the time. But look, it may well be what people had feared once the World Cup's over. But while we were there, it was a great place to be. Russian people that I met were lovely. So, and Moscow, the city, is just fantastic. I never hear anyone talk about how beautiful Moscow is. And it is a beautiful city. So, as far as Qatar's concerned, it's interesting. Everyone sort of, there's a nasty feeling about Qatar because of the supposed way they won the bid and so forth, how corrupt it is. But they've had forensic investigations into Qatar. So we've got to just stop having a crack at them and just either if you're into World Cups, just get into if you're into going to World Cups, start organising your trip, or just start letting the Qataris do what they do. Because there's been enough time spent, I reckon, years and years spent on trying to find some sort of evidence of corruption. And there's none. No one's come up with anything. As far as Qatar as a country is concerned, I'm sure it's in November, so it's not going to be at the height of their heat, which is ridiculous at times. But the fact that it's in November and there'll be balmy nights of 30 degrees at night and stuff like that, and whatever's missing there by way of hotels and entertainment and stuff, I'm sure they'll build before it starts. So you've got to give everyone an opportunity. You just can't be swayed by what the media says. We all know that, and you guys at uni would know, you're critiquing media all the time. And there's a lot of biases in media, so we've got to give them a chance. Unless something comes out to say otherwise, you've got to give them a chance.
All right, Ralph, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Good on you guys. My pleasure.